Welcome to Telling the Tale. It's a podcast about Telltale games in which we're going to go through and play every single one of Telltale's episodic games released between the years of 2004 and 2018 when they were an active video game developer. And I'm Mitchell Farley-Wolf, but it's not just me. I'm also here, as per always, with Dustin Jackson. Hey Dustin, how's it going?
You know what, Mitch? It's going great. I really gotta hand it to you. You make a good podcast.
Hands are involved in this episode of
yeah, they are.
Tales of Monkey Island. In fact, that is Tales of Monkey Island Episode 2, The Seige of Spinner K, released originally on August 20th, 2009, written and directed by Mark Darren, and designed by Darren, Stemmel, Jordan, Ferguson, Rodkin, and Will Armstrong. Let's talk about it.
I would love to. Something interesting about this episode, Mitch.
Okay.
So, I hadn't played this game in a long time, which is surprising. Mm-hmm. I consider this one of my favorite Telltale games, but I think I played it like once, maybe twice, years ago. But, you know, I love seeing what other people have to say about it as well. And I feel like every time I go to see, this is usually considered the worst episode.
I believe it.
Were you not a big fan?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it, but it also really didn't do much for me.
I feel ya. Okay, we can get into it.
Yeah, and I kind of felt that way a little bit about the last episode, too. The last episode at least had some build-up for larger ideas, like this pox and finding Elaine, and the whole Gulf of Melange as an area is interesting. So a lot of that stuff is cool, and I'm excited to see that pay out inevitably. But like, yeah, these individual episodes so far feel, probably because Monkey Island itself feels like a very typical adventure game, because it is responsible for influencing a lot of what came after it. These episodes kind of just feel like, oh, that was like this feels really in bad faith, but I'm I'm struggling to think of a better metaphor of like, oh, that was the CVS brand, store brand of Coca-Cola. It's not Coca-Cola. Ouch. Where like every other Telltale game is like, oh, this is a specific thing we're doing. This is the generic core of what a Telltale game is.
Okay.
At least before Walking Dead.
All right.
And there are many moments in the episode where I think it like finds footing and has an exciting bit and has like it's reaching for something more. And I remember this game getting there eventually and actually reaching those places. But yeah, for this episode especially, I was kind of just walking away from it feeling like, yeah, that was an episode of an adventure game, and I'll talk to Dustin about it. And that'll be the day.
Okay, I get that. I actually liked this one better than the last episode, and that's coming from someone who actually really enjoyed the last episode.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would prefer the last episode, if only because Flotsam Island, I like the island as a setting more than I like most of these islands. This is an island hopping episode. You get to go to a bunch of different islands, which is a cool premise in and of itself, but most of the places that you go, in my opinion, feel very single purpose.
Yeah. A good chunk of them are pretty there's like a couple of them you don't even really have to go to.
Yeah.
But I like a lot about like I like the main island. I like Spinner K a lot. I think the visuals are very nice. I like the Mer People Society. One thing I did not like though. Okay. Another jungle puzzle.
Yeah. Okay. So
that was the one thing where I'm like, really, and another one of these.
So in the Gulf of Melange, there is one... The Gulf of Melange is already an archipelago, but there's a mini archipelago within it called the Jerkbait Islands. And within the Jerkbait Islands, there is Spoon Island, which has, yeah, exactly what you just said. It's another... it's another jungle puzzle. Like, the jungle works the same way, except this jungle puzzle isn't like... Oh, it's non-deterministic. It can put you anywhere, and you need to follow the cues. It's not like that. It's just actually a maze.
Yeah, it's just a layout you have to navigate.
You just need to brute force your way through and remember the way that it works, which is not cool.
Yeah, that part I wasn't a big fan of.
Yeah. You know what? You know what's a little bit affecting my mood about this episode? That it's possibly not entirely this episode's fault.
What is it, Mitch? Lay it on me.
I was getting ready to hop on this recording, but 20 minutes ago or so. And I I had finished the episode, and I was thinking, like, yeah, that was an episode. And then I'm putting together my notes, putting the weekly guy and golden moment and whatever in my notes. And then I get a text. I get a text from my sister Peyton, who messages me and says, "Hey, I'm gonna walk the dog." And then, like 1 minute later, I get a second text from Peyton that says, "A bird pooped on the dog."
That was a fast story.
Especially because it's Peyton, and I know that listeners of the show probably don't know Peyton, but the idea that she's taking the dog out, which she doesn't normally do. She was doing me a favor, really. And just immediately, like, a bird shits on the dog. Like, you have to have a coordinated attack for that to even happen.
That bird had been planning for weeks.
I'm just picturing her face when she's like, I don't know what to do.
Where does this go?
I don't even know how to fix this. I don't know if the dog would care.
I can see how that might affect your mood a little bit.
Yeah, that story is so funny, and I love it so much that this episode is like a much smaller part of my day.
Well, thanks, bird who pooped on the dog.
I'm just imagining. I still have not seen them since this happened, but I'm just imagining Colton just sitting there with bird shit on his back, giving me the sometimes eyes that dogs do sometimes when they're looking off to the side but not turning their head. And I would know he's just wondering, like, hey, what's gonna happen about this?
What's to be done?
What's to be done here? Do I kill the bird? Is it fine? I don't... Is it... How much of an offense is this?
I guess I gotta get some sort of revenge.
Okay.
My story's not as good as that, but I did get a cinnamon roll before the episode, so maybe that colored my opinion as well. Maybe it put me in such a good mood that I was like, you know what? This is a good day.
Okay. Maybe I should have tried the cinnamon approach. Oh, what I did do is, you remember Cream Savers?
Yeah.
Hey, you remember Cream Savers? I went to a candy store downtown last night, and I found that they are selling rolls of Cream Savers again. The first Cream Savers I've eaten in like 15 years probably, because they were gone for a very long time. So I enjoyed a roll of the strawberry flavored Cream Savers while I powered through this episode. And
that's awesome.
Dustin, it was a delight. It was a culinary treat.
Yeah, I got Sour Patch Kids last night.
Whoa!
I mean, that not anything to do with this episode, but they were really good. Just on the subject of candy.
How this is definitely what we want to be talking about right now. How good is your mouth at powering through the sour? Like, do you get canker sores easy?
I used to. I feel like I don't anymore. It's only if something's like super, super sour. Like I can't do sour Skittles, for example. Those I feel like really destroy your mouth. But Sour Patch Kids, I think, are fine.
I think with the Skittles too, it's like they're sharp.
Yeah.
So like they cut into the side.
Exactly. I can't do those no more.
I love candy so much. I really do. I enjoy it a lot. But I do tend to get canker sores when I'm abusing my trust in my mouth.
It's been misplaced and now you have to suffer the consequences.
Should we talk about Monkey Island?
Yeah.
Okay. So episode 2, the Seige Spinner K, where we left off with episode 1, was Guybrush was at Sword Point, and wouldn't you know it, it was the person who was foreshadowed multiple times last episode, Morgan Leflay.
Wow.
Morgan Leflay is an assassin for hire who is a hit woman mostly for taking down pirates. That's like her whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like Morgan Leflay.
She's great. She's like, immediately from this scene, she's like an iconic Monkey Island character.
Oh, yeah. So not only is she like just a hit person, which is already a cool trope for just genre fiction in general, but she is a really big fan of Guybrush's.
I thought that was a very fun idea. The idea that a goof like Guybrush Threepwood can have fans.
Yeah.
I don't think that's been a thing up until this point. Everyone just kind of sees Guybrush as this loser pirate. But now you have someone who's like, Guybrush's biggest fan. That's great.
Well, through all the LucasArts Monkey Island games, yeah, you're right. Except maybe Escape, but who knows? Ooh, I have an airplane.
Whoa.
It's right here.
This episode's about pirates, crash. Not air. Go away, plane.
Yeah, unless you're talking space pirates, in which case, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, stay on brand.
Stay on brand. But yeah, at this point, with this being the 5th Monkey Island game, and 10 years after, or 9 years after the previous Monkey Island game, I like the idea that Telltale's looked at the arc of Guybrush Threepwood, and everything that he was trying to do over and over and over again in the first 2 games mostly, and then also curse a little bit, which is just like, hey, I'm a dorky little dweeb, but I want to be a pirate. I took down LeChuck. In Monkey Island 2, I think this comes out a lot, where he took down LeChuck, and he's just trying to tell everyone all the time, I'm the guy that took down LeChuck! And people
they're like,
yeah, that's like the 4th time he told me. I just...
yeah, gets cooler every time.
I don't know who LeDuck is. It's all right. And then he finds the treasure of Big Whoop in Monkey Island 2, and I think he tries telling people about that similarly in Curse of Monkey Island. And in this game, like, it's finally been enough time that it wouldn't make sense, really, for him to keep being that way. Even if people would view him as, like, a dweeb, he would be a famous dweeb at this point that people just would know about. And Morgan Leflay, like, you could imagine that she grew up with Guybrush posters on her wall. She loves this guy. She's talking, you're the guy that brought down LeChuck, and you found Big Whoop, and you did all this other stuff. And like, everything that he's always tried to make happen for himself, which is just, I want to be a pirate that people know about and tell stories about. It happened. This is like the physical embodiment of everything he's ever wanted, and she wants to kill Guybrush. Because the Marquis Lessange told her to do that.
Yeah, she says, "Look, Guybrush, you're great, but I got a job to do."
Yeah, the Marquis Lessange wanted Guybrush's hand, but we later find out that he's not satisfied with just the hand, and he needs the entire bod. Because he's got the pox within him.
Yeah.
It's spread. We also find later in this episode that you don't need to have visible pox in order to have pox.
Yeah, I guess if it's like visible, that means it's like really, really setting in. Because the people who have the pox seem to be, well, other than McGillicuddy's men, they're not too bad, but they're still kind of ornery. But then like McGillicuddy's really bad. So I do feel like if you have visible signs, then you're probably pretty far along.
I think that's probably right.
Mm-hmm. Do you know who voices Morgan Leflay?
Nikki Rapp. I looked it up because it's a very distinctive voice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize it. It doesn't sound. It does sound very. This again comes out like an insult, and I don't want it to, but it's like a very voice actory voice. Like this is what a young adult female fan of Guybrush sounds like in a lab created this voice to be exactly that character.
Do you want to know who else she voices in a Telltale game that we played?
Yeah, we talked about it a bunch.
Yeah.
But it's not... Hang on. I will remember.
Okay.
Baby Amelia Earhart.
Wrong.
Are you sure?
No, but that's not who I'm thinking of.
Okay. What game?
Walking Dead.
Is it Clementine?
No.
No. Is it Bonnie?
No.
Is it Lily?
Yes, it is Lily.
Okay. Gotcha.
And also, she is not Baby Amelia Earhart. Baby Amelia is Thessaly Lerner. I've never seen that name before.
Always get those mixed up.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of a character who's just like a huge fan of the player character and will even kind of fangirl out about it for a moment, but is still definitely on a mission to get Guybrush's hand and will not back down from it.
Yeah, it's an interesting because she's still an antagonist, but she still really likes you.
Yeah. Yeah, and at some point you can kind of like just try to ask her, "Hey, do you want to like join my crew and stop trying to kill me? Because that'd be fine." And she is like, "That would be wonderful." But no, I gotta like finish a job. You can't just not finish a job.
Yeah, it's like the pirate hunter's code.
Yeah, talk about people who are slaves to capitalism. You're just gonna give up on your dreams because you had a job to fulfill? Come on.
You sheep.
You sheep. Look at all these sheeple.
I do like this intro part where you're sword fighting her and kind of gotta move around. There's not a whole lot to the puzzle, but it starts things off on an exciting note.
Yeah. In the middle of it all, your hand is cut off, and you find Morgan's hook that she used to climb onto your ship, and you basically just slap that hook into your raw bone and flesh in order to connect a hook hand permanently.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool, man.
And the hand is still alive too. You see the seagull like trying to bite it, and the hand's like jumping.
Yeah, the hand is still full of the pox and is still evil voodoo magic. So you don't want to. You don't really want to be friends with it, but it's probably better than an amputation. Maybe.
Yeah.
But she takes the hand and she leaves.
Yeah.
So now you just have a hook hand, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, if I remember right, I remember interviews where Ron Gilbert said that was his favorite thing they did with Guybrush.
Give him a hook hand?
Yeah, chop that hand off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how many times have we talked about losing a hand?
At least the once.
At least, yeah, this is the second episode, so that's a lot. Lee lost a hand.
That's true.
If you think about it.
I did think about it when it happened. I was like, oh, that also happened in The Walking Dead Season 1.
Homestar lost both his hands.
Yeah.
At some indeterminate time in the past.
As far as we know.
Yeah. I hope nobody emancipates me from these striped hands.
Striped hands.
As you can go around on the ship while you're fighting Morgan Le Fay, if you click on the mast of your ship, Guybrush just says, "That's the mast of my ship," and then Morgan says, "Yeah."
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I know what a mast like is. And as soon as she leaves to bring the hand back to the Marquis, you have a lot of options open up. You can go anywhere on the map in the Gulf of Melange, including you can try to go back to Flotsam Island, which doesn't work. You can try to go to any of the islands within the Jerkbait Islands, but only Spinner Cay is open at first. You can try to go back to the Rock of Gelato, but Guybrush says, I actually don't like it there because I lost a hand and my wife. So I don't want to
I'm sure
back.
You can understand not wanting to go back.
And then you can go to 3 tiny islands that don't have anything on them. So in a sense, you actually don't have a lot of options, but like the whole space of the episode is open immediately, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the gatedness around, like, I wish you could just go to the different Jerkbait Islands. I understand why you can't, because they want you to have like the intro on Spinner Cay is important narratively, but I really wish you could kind of just go there to all the other ones.
I wish I could do the jungle maze first.
Yeah, everyone wants to get that jungle maze either out of the way or done first because they like it.
Love that jungle maze.
Mm-hmm. But if you go to Spinner Cay, you'll find 2 things. One, it's entirely populated by mermaids, which is great. We love that.
Yeah. They're called Vacalians.
Vacalians, which seems like if I were Monkey Island, I would have done a pun there. And maybe it is a pun, but I don't understand it if it is.
I don't really get how, like, what it ties into, but I kept thinking of vacay like vacation.
Yeah, I did too.
But it doesn't really tie into being mer people at all.
They also had a lot of lore that didn't come up, which was like, a long time ago we were mermaids. And then, which is a weird start to lore, because that's what they are now also. But then they had the era of terra firma, where they all started walking on land for a bit. But then they wanted to be mermaids again, so they got rid of their legs and got tails again.
Yeah.
And, like, multiple people can tell you that. And it doesn't matter. And it doesn't come up, but it's important to know.
It's just a fun little bit of world building.
Yeah. But more importantly to Guybrush, you need to repair the mast of your ship here, and also you find that Elaine is here.
Oh, the beautiful Elaine Marley from the other game.
What do you think about Elaine's role in this episode?
I wish she did more in it. She doesn't really do that much, but it's good to see her. She is trying to keep the peace between what's the name?
Captain McGillicuddy and
Captain McGillicuddy and
Beluga.
Chieftain Beluga, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I like that she's here keeping the peace between the two, or trying to. She's trying to find a solution. Captain McGillicuddy wants the summoning items. Chieftain Beluga does not want to give them to Captain McGillicuddy for good reason.
A classic he said, she said.
Yeah, and Elaine is like... I really like some of the compromises Elaine comes up with. She's like, can't you just tell him, like, part of the summoning words and he can just take half the sponge?
Yeah. There's 3 summoning items. These summoning items will summon La Esponja Grande, which is the thing that could potentially suck up all the pox in the archipelago, and is really the only cure for if you have the pox.
Mm-hmm.
This is revealed later in the episode to be exactly what Captain McGillicuddy actually doesn't want. You're supposed to think at first that he wants this because he wants to not have the pox anymore. Because he's green, he's full of pox energy, he looks evil, he looks like he's not enjoying his time. But in fact, he's loving it, and wants to go see the sponge so he can destroy the sponge.
Yeah, he thinks it's the new golden age of piracy. He thinks, this is what being a pirate's about, and you can't destroy it.
Yeah,
obviously.
Very interesting Sea of Thieves parallels here with like leaning into the curse that you have and thinking about what the golden age of piracy should look like. Fun ideas there.
I played Sea of Thieves this morning with our friends.
How did that go?
It went pretty well, actually. They were saying beforehand this new adventure can go south very easily, but it went pretty smoothly, and it was a good time. So I've had a lot of pirates going on today.
Everyone loves when the narrative stuff can go wrong really easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in this game, the narrative is just gonna happen. No matter what.
Luckily you can't get griefed by other players in this game.
So yeah, I concur with what you were saying. The compromises that Elaine tries to push forward here maybe show that, like, I don't know whether I was ever supposed to think Elaine is a good or bad governor, actually. You know?
Yeah, we don't really see her do much. We know she's a pretty kick-ass, like, action star pirate, but maybe she's not so great with situations where she actually has to talk to the people.
Yeah, because this seems bad.
Yeah, she says, like, maybe we can just all take one of the summoning items each.
Yeah, there's 3 of us, 3 summoning items, we'll just walk away.
Yeah, it doesn't occur to her that in no way would that work.
In no way does this help any person here. I mean, it kind of works though, because what she eventually tells Guybrush is she's just stalling while Guybrush is supposed to go actually collect all 3 of the things. While she keeps both of these people who would want Guybrush to not do this distracted with her very bad compromising tactics.
So so she's doing the bad ideas on purpose to drag it out longer.
Potentially. For I don't know if that's exactly how it's supposed to be read, but
I could see it. I feel like Elaine's competent enough that she could put together a plan like that. But I also just think it's funny that she just has the worst suggestions.
Yeah, it's good.
What do you think of Spinner K?
It's cool. It's like a one room. It's a big room, but like a one room environment where most of the interesting things in this episode are going to happen.
Yeah, I like this area a lot. The visuals, I just like the idea behind it, that it's this island where all the merfolk live, and they have little they have a library, they have a bait and repair shop. It's just a nice place.
Those are the 2 things they have. It's those 2 things.
That's all you need.
Yeah, so there's a lot of masturbation puns in this episode.
Yeah.
So at the bait and repair shop, you fix your mast and get bait. So mast and bait, it's right there. And anytime you talk about, hey, Anemone, that's the name of the merfolk who runs that shop. Can you fix my mast? And she'll always have something to say. She'll always steer it in a direction. You're not supposed to take it too far, Anemone. You really made
joke.
It weird. Good job.
Really funny. You mer people sure have some good jokes.
But yeah, one of the reasons you need to go there is to fix the mast on your ship, which is easy as just doing it. You just tell her, hey, can you fix it? And she says it is done.
Yeah. I would say that's kind of a lame, boring way, but it does tie into a puzzle later, at least.
It does, yeah, a little bit. And also, I'm kind of at the point where, like, I don't think this episode needed more puzzle padding. I don't think that's what it wanted from like a design point of view. I think what this episode maybe needed was like just a little bit more, a little bit more depth to the things that you're doing, without necessarily turning everything into a puzzle.
Okay.
Because I wrote down a series. I have on my notes here like 3 in a row, puzzles that I did have to look up.
Ooh, 3 in a row.
Yeah, if I wasn't, if I had a little bit more time to just really sink my brain into it, I probably would have let these linger, but I really don't think that I would have gotten these ever.
Which ones?
So there's a toy manatee in Dakava's tent. Now, Dakava's tent, that's a whole thing. On Roe Island, you find that the person who you've been trying to find, who's been looking for La Sponta Grande, has a tent full of their stuff, and one of those things there is like a mechanical toy manatee.
Yeah.
And what you're supposed to do is put the sponge locket that the voodoo lady gave you of her and Dakava into a very specific like part of the manatee. And I didn't see that there was a hole there, and I would never have clocked that the hole was that same shape as the sponge locket, nor would it have made sense ever for me to think like, well, yeah, you could put the sponge locket in the manatee, of course. That all of that is nothing to me. But you do need to put the locket in the manatee, and then it prints out a receipt, which is a further wild thing, which is that it's just a blank piece of paper that you need to look at with a red light, which you create out of that, like, the eye of the manatee, which is that's a good hint. It's the eye of the manatee, but it's too small once you do that, so you need to combine the eye of the manatee with a fisheye lens in order to make it a magnifying glass and all-seeing eye glass thing. Then you read that it's the name of a joke book, and then if you go get the joke book from the library, the joke book has a coupon for worms inside. And then you can go get the worms. And it doesn't...
Yeah.
None of this helps you even know what to do with the worms. Like, even if I could somehow figure out how to start any of that, never, I would never have gotten that. Never.
Maybe it's just because I played it once a long time ago, but I didn't have a problem with any of these.
Well, yeah, I did remember some of the stuff. I remembered that I needed to melt down the pyrite parrot.
Yeah. That I definitely remembered.
I remembered it was because it's just a sort of memorable little puzzle. I don't know if I would have remembered I need to do it otherwise. And I also don't know if I would have remembered, especially, that you need to drop the molten pyrite, once you do melt it down, off a cliff face into a mold at the bottom of the cliff, and you can't just walk there.
Yeah, that one I did have to look up.
That one is some bullshit, too. Yeah.
Yeah. I even though I did enjoy this episode, it does have its flaws.
Yeah, I think with the sponge locket and the manatee toy thing, it's foreshadowing of something we're not supposed to know yet, but I think is sort of obvious, so maybe we can just talk about it.
Okay.
La Esponja Grande is inside the manatee.
I think so. It's been a while, but
yeah, I'm actually
right.
not entirely sure either, but I think putting the sponge locket inside the manatee, like where its stomach is, in the toy, is foreshadowing of how at the end of this episode we are eaten by a leviathan manatee, a giant honker of a bud.
I love
just
that.
slurps us up, And a big part of it, episode 3, The Lair of the Leviathan, if I remember correctly, does take place inside the Leviathan, a manatee's stomach. So I do bet that's where we'll find it.
I really love that giant manatee, since I feel like giant sea monsters is not something they do a whole lot of in Monkey Island.
Yeah, Monkey Island is very human-centered, I think, for the most part. There's not a lot of... Like, there is a lot of magic and voodoo and ghosts and zombies and demon-ish things, but those things are all... like with an eye toward humanity. Humans cause the zombies. Humans cause the magic. So this having a Leviathan is interesting in and of itself. I've actually been doing a lot of research on the cultural concept of the Leviathan, Dustin.
Wow,
that had nothing to do with this episode.
Good homework.
Yeah. A lot of it is religious blasphemy, if you are a believer. So I probably won't get into it. But there's interesting stuff to know about it.
Yeah, check it out on your own.
Yeah, look up Google. So you go around. You need to collect all 3 of these gold summoning items.
Mm-hmm.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really don't feel like I remembered that you were supposed to put the locket in the manatee, but I guess it just made sense. I guess it was the shape of the hole. I did notice the hole on it. And I really don't think I just remembered that's what you're supposed to do. I forgot about that. So I don't know. I guess I just saw the shape of the locket and figured put it in.
I didn't even really recognize it as a hole. And I think part of that is just because La Esponja Grande is not that distinctive of a shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of potatular. Potatular.
That's a good word.
And it's just sort of lumpy. And that's not like an instantly recognizable, that's the shape. That's the thing. So that bit's kind of hard.
I feel ya.
Yeah. Anyway, you go around. There's some great puzzles, just iconic, memorable puzzles that I definitely remember for all 3 of these summoning items. But I think the biggest one is probably the turtle, in which you'll run into your old pal LeChuck.
Ooh, but LeChuck's not quite as you remember him, is he, Mitchell?
No, he's not. He's human. He's
wow.
fully human, just like in the last episode. And he's kind, and he's trying to insist to Guybrush that they're on the same side now. The pox has completely left his body. He's no longer voodoo evil. Now he's voodoo-less neutral. And he's just trying to figure out a puzzle on his own, which I think is a fun character beat for him of well, Guybrush is always going around figuring out puzzles, and I just kill people when I don't get what I want. So I should try puzzles. Puzzles are the good guy thing.
I did love this part. I know the puzzles are not the best they could be in this episode, but this part I thought was fun.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, Dustin, you're a big fan of LeChuck. What do you think of human LeChuck?
I love human LeChuck. I think his performance is very good. He's voiced by Kevin Blackton, and he does a great job of sounding like LeChuck but different. And I think the design, I buy it as okay, this is what LeChuck looked like before. And I just love how jovial he sounds. It's a weird case where he feels like he has the same energy as Demon LeChuck, but doing it in a nicer, jolly way. He's still very up here, very performative with what he's saying.
He's very Brian Blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's almost one of those we couldn't get Patrick Warburton for Sal the Cockroach, so we're just gonna get someone to do Patrick Warburton. And I feel like that might be this for Brian Blessed a little bit.
Okay. I can see where you're coming from. But yeah, he does a great job, and I really like that he sells the sincerity of human LeChuck. Like, you can tell he really wants to get this puzzle thing. It's really important to him that he knows how to do these puzzles like Guybrush does.
Yeah, you have no idea at this point as a player. And I actually kind of forget, so I'm in the position of playing for the first time again, I guess. I forget whether or not LeChuck's kindness is sincere. I don't remember. And you're not supposed to know at this point.
Yeah.
He's
like,
saying,
even
like,
Guybrush is very hesitant. He's like, I still don't trust this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's more than hesitant. He's trying to do the thing. Like, Elaine tells him, hey, just let LeChuck do it. He's fine. And Guybrush is mostly going to say, like, no, but I will talk to him.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, Guybrush is justified.
Yeah.
I feel like it makes sense for him not to trust LeChuck.
One thing I really like about this episode is that Elaine tells Guybrush, at one point, a little later on, after you meet LeChuck the first time, that the plan for getting past a blockade that Captain McGillicuddy sets up is to have Guybrush distract the blockade with island-side cannon fire, and have LeChuck sail through the weak part of the blockade while they're distracted. And Guybrush says, hey, I understand that LeChuck is physically bigger and stronger than me, and might be, in that way, a better candidate for this, but you gotta not trust LeChuck. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the one that goes through the defense, and I'm gonna have LeChuck be the person distracting them. And Elaine says, no, just do what I say, and actually goes into, like, a pox-ridden anger. And I really liked this episode giving Guybrush the agency to just say, I respect Elaine. I think she's making a good point a lot of the time. This is legit a bad idea, and I will just go ahead and do it, and I'll tell LeChuck that he's the one that's supposed to be distracting them.
Yeah, I mean...
And it works out. That bit is not, like, turned against Guybrush for comedic effect, which I like. Yeah,
up until now, I feel like LeChuck is... or Guybrush is always... I don't want to say he's, like, incompetent, but up until now, you get the idea that, okay, LeChuck... I keep mixing up LeChuck and Guybrush. Guybrush is... goofy, and Elaine knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
So
no matter what Guybrush says, if Guybrush was going to trust LeChuck or not trust LeChuck, like I think in a previous game, or maybe in worse hands, they would have just made Guybrush wrong no matter what. And
yeah.
Like, it'll be turned on its head, and it won't necessarily feel fair. It'll probably be silly and funny, but, like, the integrity of, like, well, you should have trusted LeChuck won't be there, because it'll just, whichever one Guybrush does is wrong. And in this game, Guybrush is given a little bit of his own, like, hey, you know, I do understand that I should not let LeChuck do this, even if he's fine. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, that's something I kind of noticed when playing Curse of Monkey Island, is Guybrush is a little bit more of a doormat in it. Like, in Monkey Island 1 and 2, he's still a doofus, but he kind of does have that agency. In 2, he's kind of an asshole in places. So, and then in 3, they kind of soften him up a little bit. They make him more... He's always the butt of the joke, but in 3 especially, he feels like, oh, I'm just kind of this wimpy guy.
Yeah.
But I like how here he feels like, no, Elaine, I love you, but I feel like this is probably the wrong way to go about it. I feel like we should do it this way. And it really does make Guybrush feel like a stronger protagonist than he had been up until then. Because I feel like they kind of miss out. They feel like, oh, well, if Guybrush is, the goofy loser, we really got to emphasize what a goofy loser he is and make him a little more pathetic in these than he should be. And here I feel like they're kind of taking that back, which is nice.
What I think is interesting about Ron Gilbert's Guybrush Threepwood, which is just the first 2 games, and I guess the upcoming return, is that in those games, Guybrush is a dweeb, and he gets stuff wrong all the time, but he like fails upward. He doesn't usually like mess everything up. He usually does stuff wrong, and then like it magically works out for him. Like he completely. The reason Elaine Marley is even into Guybrush is because he accidentally ignored her and forgot about her for a bit between the games 1 and 2, which was, I guess, like the magical thing that Elaine really wanted from the guy.
Of course.
It's a little bit 1990s. It's a little bit behind the times. But yeah, and like the Elaine being in love with Guybrush, it feels almost completely accidental from Guybrush's point of view.
Actually, that's something I wanted to ask you about. How do you feel about Guybrush and Elaine as a couple?
It's been so long. I do wish that I played Curse before starting this series. Because it's been so long since I played Curse, and I've never played Escape, just like you. And I don't really remember the intermediate bits of their relationship between Monkey Island 2, where she likes him a lot, but like it wasn't going to work out, and Tales, where they're long already been married.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is because I remember Ron Gilbert saying, I forget if it was in an interview or like on his blog or something, but he said that's one of the things he didn't like was Guybrush and Elaine getting together.
Yeah.
The way he described it was, Elaine loves Guybrush like a brother and nothing more. But I gotta be honest, I actually really like Guybrush and Elaine together. I think it's cute.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that read of his game. Like, that doesn't seem like what Monkey Island 2 was about.
Yeah, and let me just say it's also been, I remember reading that a long time ago, so maybe I am not remembering like nuances to what he said, but that's what I remember him saying.
Yeah, my memory of Monkey Island 2 is that Monkey Island 1, you do the thing where you save Elaine Marley, even though you realize last minute, oh, she actually didn't need to be saved.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a classic. And then in Monkey Island 2, like, apparently he just sort of left and did piracy, and abandoned her. And she started being a governor on a different island. Because she's just like an experienced governor for various things. She's like, oh, can I be the governor of here? Like, oh yeah, we were looking for a governor.
What a coincidence. We just happen to be needing a governor.
So if Guybrush finds her at her governor's house, she's like, I was so into you, and then you just left, and I'm not gonna let myself get distracted with you again. And but then without you doing anything, she kind of talks herself into like, okay, you got me. I can never say no from you. I can never stay away from you. So it definitely seemed like she was very into Guybrush, but Guybrush was probably very into her, but also he just messed up this relationship frequently, and is a bad person. So, so yeah, very different from the way that they are portrayed later, but in a different way than her not liking him romantically. That doesn't seem like how it was written.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I just like we talked about how Guybrush is kind of this loser doofus. I like I like Elaine just loving him for it, and like I like the idea that there's someone who's like, besides Morgan Leflay introduced now. I like the idea that there is someone who is Guybrush's biggest fan.
Yeah, that's really cool. I do like that Elaine, especially in this episode. In the first episode, you have to, or at least from Guybrush's point of view, you have to rescue Elaine, which is I don't like that, because most of the time you never actually have to rescue Elaine. It like they put Elaine in the game as sort of reference to Peach or Zelda, of like, you need to save the princess, go save the governor, but she is fine, and in most of the cases they don't even really put her in that position. She's just like that kind of character, but no, she's fine the whole time. And in episode 1 of this game, they really do have Guybrush come from a point of like, I need to save my wife, which is like the first time that's ever really happened in the Monkey Island series. And even in the cold open, it looks like that was already kind of the situation she was in. She was tied up on LeChuck's ship.
Yeah, it didn't look like she had like a plan behind the scenes or anything.
Yeah, this is the weakest we've ever seen Elaine. In episode 1 of Tales. But by episode 2, Elaine's clearly fine, doing her own thing. I like that she is just married to Guybrush. There's no like, oh, let's get this relationship going. It's not like a pressure to get something started or to make something happen. They're just already married. They're fine. And she's just doing her own thing. She's got chores to do on these islands just the same way Guybrush does.
Yeah, and I like that Guybrush... Guybrush does want to get out of there, but he respects that Elaine has her own stuff going on.
Yeah. Right. So with Elaine and LeChuck sort of being on the periphery in this episode, there's a lot of time for Guybrush to just talk with mermaids and members of Captain McGillicuddy's crew. What do you think of these background characters?
I like some of them. I feel like some of them are not so strong. I think the merfolk are great. I really like the concept with them. So the idea behind the merfolk is they're very androgynous. You don't know what gender any of them are, and that's just fine. That's just how they are. And they're great. They're entertaining characters.
Sort of, though, right? Like, they do sort of push that idea, but also they mostly all have like female presenting voice actresses.
Yeah.
But
I think
kind of feels like it defeats that idea to me a little bit.
Kind of, I could see that. I know Elaine specifically says Beluga is male.
Oh, does she?
Yeah.
Okay, I might have missed that.
Yeah, she says he a few times.
Okay. Yeah, and then the librarian I think is presented in a very interesting way in that regard
Anemone?
as well.
Oh no, not Anemone.
Tetra.
This is Tetra. Yeah.
Yeah, Tetra. Who the name Tetra I've only experienced in Wind Waker. Is it a name from other things? Is there the name Tetra out there in the world?
I'm not sure. I mean, I would assume so.
What is a Tetra?
I also only know the one from Wind Waker.
I'm gonna look up the name Tetra and see if it's like an ocean thing.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Too hard to look up. Because there's a lot of things called Tetra. Cool. Okay, wait. No, Tetra is the common name of many small freshwater fish.
Okay.
Tetras come from Africa, Central America, and South America, belonging to the biological family Caracaeidae. Caracaeidae. All right.
So it's basically just a kind of fish.
Yeah, it's a kind of fish. It's like a small little
cool.
fish.
We learned something here today.
It's like calling someone guppy.
Yeah.
Great. something that happens on this in Spinner K in the Mermaid Town is Elaine catches Guybrush right before he's about to leave, and talks about how their wedding ring was on his voodoo hand, which is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking this like 13 years ago when I played this episode. It's like, Elaine, clearly there's bigger fish to fry right now. And it's this thing that happens in adventure games all the time, where like you don't care at all about the big stuff, and you care so much about the little stuff. And I just don't like it. I just don't like it. It upsets me every time. It's annoying, but yeah. Elaine takes an earring out of her ear and says, "Well, okay, you can borrow this extra one."
Thanks, Elaine.
Thanks for letting me borrow your extra one. A very normal thing to do. And says, "Don't lose it." And I wrote here in my notes, I'm gonna lose the hell out of this ring.
I can't wait to lose this ring.
I can't lose this ring fast enough.
As soon as you turn your back, Elaine, guess where this ring's going?
I need
into the
to
water.
Keep having this ring like a hole in my head. It's gonna get lost.
So you think it's building up to Guybrush losing the ring?
It has to be, right? I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, do you remember what happens?
Yes,
okay.
I 100% remember what happens.
Right. Yeah, like he kind of does a turn to camera and says like, who would be clumsy enough to lose a ring twice? And then the parrot comes out and says, "I'm Guybrush Threepwood." To dial that bit home.
They get a lot of that. They get a lot out of that parrot.
I'm gonna lose the hell out of this ring. So yeah, eventually the blockade starts, and then Captain McGillicuddy becomes the chief antagonist of the episode, where you're trying to get through his blockade. You need to replace your mast with a palm tree in order for any cannonballs shot at it to just return fire at the ship that shot it. An easy to understand puzzle for the whole family.
Even Grandma's getting in on it.
Once you do that, you go back to Chieftain Beluga, who tells you how to use the summoning items, which summon these like weird sea turtle seahorse hybrid that I love. I love these guys.
They're great.
Yeah.
You know what? Something I was gonna bring it up earlier, but I totally forgot. It's when you were talking about the humanity aspect of Monkey Island. It's interesting that just in this episode, well, it's. I also haven't played Escape, so I don't know if they delved into this too, but it feels like a lot of more fantasy elements come out in this one episode.
Yeah.
Like you have the mer people, you have the giant manatee, you have these weird creatures. How do you feel about these elements being added to a game series that, for the most part, seem to fit in with a more, I don't want to say traditional pirate world, but a less fantasy-based piratey setting?
Well, it really gives this game in particular its own flavor, which is a thing about the Monkey Island series. 1 and 2 are very similar to each other, but then Curse is so different because it's hand animated and just has a very different vibe. Escape looks very different, and this game has its own vibe, and Returns looks like nothing as well. So it's putting it outside of just the aesthetics and also into like, how does this world work? How does it feel in a way that does still kind of line up with at least kind of line up with the feeling of Monkey Island's past being respected. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, same. I feel like it is a good way of evolving the world of Monkey Island. Because, yeah, in those earlier games, it is more, like, historically accurate's not the word I'm looking for, but, well, like, it feels more real, I guess. Other than, like, ghost pirates and demons and the voodoo and stuff. But you never had, like, mythical creatures, like mer people and these weird creatures.
Yeah, in the first game, when you start it, it says Melee Island somewhere in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
It's defining it by the real world location, the Caribbean Sea. Whereas in this game, they keep talking about the Gulf of Melange, which you intuit is probably in the Caribbean, but is a fake gulf. Like, that's not a real place.
Yeah.
And also in the first game, if they were going to break reality, the way they do that is having, like, a used car salesman in in the golden age of piracy, sort of out of time, putting a a soda machine in like a can dispenser. What are those called? What am I thinking?
Vending machine.
Vending machine. Yeah, thank you.
It's been so long since I've seen a vending machine. It took me a second to really think about it.
Yeah, a soda box.
One of them boxes that gives you soda for money.
What are the Pepsi boxes called? You can put a vending machine in that world. You put like posters for a circus or in like a theme park, and like their whole version, games 1 and 2, their version of breaking reality is to mix it with modernity. Make it feel modern. Make it feel like, oh, it actually might be real at the end of Monkey Island 2, where LeChuck just turns out to be Guybrush's brother Chuck, and this whole thing is a dream that Guybrush had, while being a modern day child. Sorry for spoiling Monkey Island 2 if you haven't gotten there, but it's been a long time. It's been over 30 years, so let's
you had your chance.
Let's chill out about it. You feel like, I don't know if that's definitely true, but it definitely might be true. That it was all just a dream of a modern day child. Whereas with this game, probably because that was not positively received at the time, that Monkey Island 2 thing, every Monkey Island game after that has just like leaned further and further away from that idea and more just into like pretty base level fantasy piratey stuff.
Yeah. There's something I want to get your thoughts on, Mitch. How do you feel about the ending to Monkey 2? About the possibility that it was all just a dream from little child Guybrush?
I like it a lot. I mean, if the thing is, I never interpreted the ending of Monkey 2 in the way that I think a lot of the detractors did, which it makes it very similar to the TV show Lost. Because, hey, Dustin, have you seen Lost?
No.
Well, if you talk to people who have seen Lost and don't like the end of Lost, they might often tell you it just turned out they were all dead the whole time. That is, in fact, not what happened in the show. And people are just very commonly incorrect about that. It's very frustrating when like people are talking about this wonderful television show Lost, one of the GOATs, in my opinion, and talking about the ending like they were just dead the whole time. They actually weren't, and it's good. It's good though.
I'm convinced.
So in the same way, like, was it all a dream of Guybrush's? I don't think that's what Monkey Island 2 is supposed to be saying. I think that that LeChuck was like planting seeds in Guybrush's mind to try to like destroy his psyche and remove him from trying to fight him anymore by convincing him that they were in a theme park in the future.
Yeah, that's why I don't get when people say like it's like taking it literally that it was all just a dream. Guybrush is actually a kid in modern day. Like they straight up tell you it's not. They have little Chucky like have his glowing red eyes at the screen like, rah, I got him now, and then it cuts to Elaine.
Yeah, the cut to Elaine is I think full. It still is vague. Like, are you bringing Guybrush actually to the future? Or are you like trying to hypnotize him in the past? Or is there time travel happening? Or is it just all mental? How much of what the player is seeing is the same as what Guybrush is seeing? Like, all of that stuff is vague. But then you see Elaine. It's like, okay, well, clearly then there is a base reality here. and it is the high fantasy pirate adventure thing that you want it to be. So like, why get that mad about it? Yeah, and in that way, I like the end of Monkey 2.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring this all up, because I was watching a video talking about Monkey Island, and they actually had the exact opposite opinion. They liked that that they were saying they thought that the idea was it was all fake. It was all just a dream from modern day Guybrush. And he did not like that the future titles moved away from that. And I didn't really agree with that.
I mean, I think there's something to it. I think there's something to the idea of like the future titles threw all of it away. And I also don't like that. But it's worth asking, like, okay, but is LeChuck Guybrush's brother at all? Because that could still be true.
Be real. Yeah, that could be an interesting thing.
Yeah. Sorry, but go on. What else was he saying?
Oh, that's it. I just thought it was interesting how he kind of had the opposite opinion that I did about. He liked that idea that it was all fake, all just a dream, and I was saying, well, one, like, obviously not, because of Elaine and LeChuck mugging at the camera. But two, I don't like, this is just me. Obviously, everyone's gonna have different feelings about it, but I don't like the idea of this cool world, this whole cool world that you're building up, just being fake.
I could see a very interesting take on it, where the future carnival world is additional rather than fake, instead of or the replacement to.
Like you were saying, like time travel, or just something where they can both exist. One doesn't rewrite the other.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna get hung up on time travel when LeChuck is a demon zombie. Like, I don't think one is more believable than the other.
Right.
So I would be fine with that. I would be fine with a Monkey Island game that was entirely set in the carnival, and only at the very end do you go back to the pirate world. That'd be interesting and fine to me. I don't care.
I feel like I wouldn't like that, but I would.
Well, I guess I wouldn't like it because most Monkey Island games take like a decade to make now.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it to
if
be
that's the one that you get. But if that weren't the case and you could just get another one, then
if it was just a story you could explore while knowing that there could be more after on the horizon.
Yeah, I feel like what they've said about Return to Monkey Island, with it being very potentially the final Monkey Island game, at least in the main arc of Monkey Island games that Ron Gilbert started.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it being any kind of way is sort of difficult to take, because as soon as you lock in what that game actually is, every other opportunity is closed. And I don't know what I want it to be. I have no idea. I do definitely want the one thing I know I want is for it to really explore the theme park. And like, I don't want it to be yet another game that ignores that.
I hope Guybrush is in it.
I hope Guybrush is in it, and I hope his face looks like a 3-segment piece of wood and has no other details. I hope that's what I hope.
I've got good news for you.
No way. Okay, everyone listening, don't tell Ron about that. That's hashtag don't tell Ron.
Don't tell Ron.
It's just not. We've said this so many times on this podcast. It's not worth telling Ron about the way that it looks.
I'll just say right now, I am softening up on how it looks a little. I like some parts of it, and we just got that magazine cover for PC Gamer with a big LeChuck on it. I do think the style works for characters like LeChuck who are less human. And I feel like it works for them a little better than characters like, say, Guybrush, but I don't know. Maybe I'll settle into it when I play it.
I think there's just I like it in motion a lot more than any single image I've seen.
I get that.
But so that I look at like the Guybrush face in some of the promo art, and I think like, man, that 5 o'clock shadow is really distracting. If that could have been done with a bit more restraint, that would have been great.
It really is just the 5 o'clock shadow that bothers me. A, it's one thing Guybrush has never had before, and B, it's very strong. Like, it's a very strong gray that doesn't blend into his face at all.
There's that, and then there's also, like, with LeChuck, like, his nose hole, he's had a nose hole. And it makes sense for a decomposing face to have a nose hole. The cartilage falls off or whatever. But it just looks so in the way, like, so distracting and large. And I think most characters have one or two things like that where it's like, this is one small element that is so distracting, and I would have appreciated just like a little more restraint with the character designs in this game on the whole.
I get that.
But, you know, it's whatever.
You're not going to tell Ron about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell Ron. That's
Are you crazy?
Are you insane? Have you listened to this podcast at all? That's
the one
we don't
rule.
Tell Ron around here. That's the new hashtag.
That's the one rule of the show.
The one rule of the show is we like Monkey Island enough to not tell Ron about how we like Monkey Island.
Oh, I almost forgot something about this episode. So you know the singing manatee that you find?
Yep.
Well, I was going to say one thing, but I feel like the more important thing to say is that the song he's singing is from Curse of Monkey Island, the classic A Pirate I Was Meant to Be. But the other thing I was going to say is, did you see the name of the manatee?
Was it Dave?
Good guess. A little off. Its name is Hugh.
Okay.
Oh, the Hugh manatee.
Okay. Humanity. Got it.
That's a little joke for you.
That's a very small joke, yeah. To close out the episode, Guybrush and Mr. Winslow are following these beasts they've summoned, and then Morgan Leflay shows up. She's trying to now get the rest of Guybrush's entire body, which is it's weird that you need to phrase it like that. Like, instead of she's kidnapping Mr. Winslow, she's getting Guybrush's whole body. Yeah,
it gets the point across.
But then all of a sudden, while they're talking, the beasts like start to swim away because they must know that the Leviathan's coming. It's a giant ass manatee, presumably named Hugh, I guess, that is coming to swallow them all up. And that's the end of the episode.
I love this Hugh manatee.
There's a lot here that we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about how 2 of McGillicuddy's pirates are very clearly Pirate of the Caribbean references.
Are they? I guess it's been so long since I've seen the movies, it didn't occur to me.
Well, it's the 2 hands that Barbossa has. Like, one of them is skinny with like a bowl cut kind of, and one glass eye that keeps coming out. And then the other is fat with a really scraggly beard and short.
Right.
And then that's what Trenchfoot and Hardtack are in this game. It feels intentional to have this Pirates of the Caribbean reference, but within these 2 characters' designs. To me, it feels intentional. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's hard for me to say considering it didn't occur to me while playing through, but
fair.
I guess so. I could see it.
Yeah.
There's a little.
Oh,
there's a little. There's a little callback. At one point, when Anemone is fixing your ship the first time, Guybrush whistles a little tune, and that tune is Largo Legrand's theme from Monkey Island 2.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I knew I recognized it, but I couldn't place it.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Especially because right after he whistles that, he's like, why was that song stuck in my head? What is that song?
Yeah, I love that. The first time I played, I didn't know what it was, because I think I hadn't played Monkey Island 2 before Tales. No, I did. I'm sure I played 1 and 2 and Curse before Tales. I think.
I'm wondering if the connection to Le Grand is La Esposa Grande? Like just the use of the word grand twice? I don't know.
Ooh, maybe.
It seems pretty loose. They weren't really talking about that when that happened.
Yeah, I think it was just a cute little thing.
Just a cute little thing.
Just this whittle guy.
Not on this podcast, Dustin.
We hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Looking through my notes. I like it that Winslow won't sail you anywhere unless you point to it on the map, because Winslow likes when you point on the map.
He says, I like when you point on the map.
He'll like start a full argument about it, to the point where if Guybrush says, follow those beasts, Winslow goes, we've talked about this. I thought we were going to point at the map.
The
Mr.
map
Guybrush.
What a good character.
He's great. Yeah, he's really good.
I don't know if he will be. We already talked about it last time. I hope they keep him around.
Here's one more thing. This game is from 2009, and of the games that were coming out in 2009, it was not like AAA in the way that it looked compared to like high HD console games of the time. But it still has a nice quality to it. With the amount of polygons they have access to, they do a lot of neat looking things. But one such thing is that an aesthetic identity that this episode carries through a while is like these little swirls.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I don't know, but I really like it.
So Guybrush's coat has a bunch of swirls on him, and I think it would look fine without him, but it looks all right with him, so it's fine. The manatee has like swirls on it just to give it its skin some texture, I guess. Every coat that you find, every coat is basically the same coat.
Swirl City.
And Swirl City over here.
Marculus
Swan, we talked about that.
The only thing I can think of is in Curse, the clouds are very swirly.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they just wanted to work that element into the world more. And I like it. I like swirls.
Yeah, I'm thinking that with the exception of Return to Monkey Island coming up, maybe they are self-conscious about the fact that, like, no Monkey Island game they ever make will look like Curse again, because that's such an expensive thing to do. Even at the time it was, but now it feels like it's probably even more expensive just because you don't have a lot of just like common expertise in 2D animation around the industry anymore.
Right.
So like maybe these swirls are just a grasp at something a little more painterly, a little more aesthetically pleasing. Maybe.
I could see that. What kind of along those lines, I could also see it being like, all right, well, Monkey 1 and 2 were this very pixelated style that doesn't necessarily set a precedent for how the world looks, but Curse is like fully illustrated. It does set how you view this world. So we should stick to something similar to this at least.
Well, maybe. I mean, I can see that it might have come from Curse, but like this game looks nothing like Curse. This Guybrush looks nothing like Curse Guybrush at all.
Thank God. I've decided I don't really care for Curse Guybrush.
Yeah, he's not my fave.
I think the rest of the game is gorgeous.
LeChuck doesn't look anything like Curse LeChuck. I mean, like none of the game looks like Curse. The only other games I've ever played that look anything like Curse of Monkey Island are the humongous games like Pajama Sam and Putt Putt, and none of those. The third Pajama Sam game goes there a little bit, but really none of them go as hard as Curse of Monkey Island.
Right.
They should. They should. There should be a game that does it. I just can't
a game that just
ever
looks like
again.
a 2D movie.
I would love the Cuphead devs to do an adventure game at some point.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Hey, let's head into our segments.
Well, one thing that we should also bring up is...
Okay.
Sorry, Mitch, I just want to be thorough.
It's fine.
It's just a small thing to bring up is how Elaine did not go with Guybrush. The plan was for Elaine to join Guybrush in getting La Esponja Grande, but she instead stays back with LeChuck because they have to return all of the monkeys from his voodoo spell.
Yeah, that needs to happen. He's got to put back all these monkeys.
That's an adventure in itself.
Mm-hmm. I wish they made a spin-off comic about Elaine and LeChuck's adventures putting back the various monkeys.
The 12 monkeys of LeChuck.
Yeah, I forgot that happened until you reminded me. It's mostly just a way to make sure that Elaine and LeChuck are not involved in this manatee episode that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do think I think in this episode especially, all three of the main recurring Monkey Island characters, Guybrush, Elaine, and LeChuck, all are very strong.
Yet, none of
There's
them
a lot of strong.
Are my weekly guy.
Ooh, I'm interested.
How's
okay,
that
why
for
don't
a
we
segue?
go into it?
How's that for holding my show back
10.
from the depths?
I like that.
Morgan Leflay. I love Morgan Leflay. She's great.
Morgan's great.
And this is her debut episode. Hits it out of the park. I'm into it. Although I also almost gave it to Elaine.
I also almost gave it to Elaine. There's a lot of strong characters in this episode, I think. Mm-hmm. Even though there's also some weak ones, like I think the weakest in the episode's probably like the pirates who fight LeChuck in the jungle. Like they're just there to be generic pirates, but
sure,
whatever. You don't deal with them very long. It's fine.
Yeah, I bet you picked LeChuck.
I did pick LeChuck.
Yeah,
I
of course.
Human LeChuck.
LeChuck
He's
did
so
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also almost picked Anemone. I feel like she is the best of the mer people. She just has a fun personality. She's joking around with Guybrush. But yeah, I had to give it to LeChuck. He does such a good performance. His design's great. And I just love the idea that he is trying to be like Guybrush Threepwood. It kind of ties into what you were saying before, how Guybrush is now an established famous pirate. There are now people who want to be like Guybrush.
Yeah.
Including LeChuck.
Yeah. I want to see where she goes. I hope she's in return.
Morgan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we saw her, she was referenced in the trailer, but that was like a scrapbook, so that could just not tie into the story at all. But it would be great if they brought her back. It really depends on where they're going to place this. Because we discussed it before. We don't know if it's going to take place right after 2, like the original plan was, or like they've said they want to respect continuity, so maybe it is just like the last game after Tales, even. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, we could see Elaine again, possibly. And of course we'll see Elaine. I mean, Morgan. I'm getting my names confused this week.
Morgan.
There we go. You don't even have to choose.
And speaking of Morgan, my golden moment is the opening of the episode. It's the attack with Morgan and just her introduction. I thought that was really fun. It's
great. Yeah, it's a great intro to the episode. A lot stronger than the first episode's intro, which got the job done fine. I do agree with you that it's not a good idea to have Elaine like actually be captured by LeChuck. But this one really is a lot more exciting, I think.
Yeah, and to the point where, like, in the player's minds, like, I don't care if Elaine's still in the picture or not. Well, it's like, Guybrush Morgan forever at this point. This is a fun dynamic.
I don't know if I can go that far, but I do like their... I like the relationship.
This is Dustin. Dustin texted me his exact feelings, which is like, I don't care if Elaine lives or dies. I got it. I got this text from Dustin as he's playing it. He says, "I don't care if Elaine lives or dies. I personally, Dustin Jackson, am marrying Morgan Leflay."
I hope there is an on-screen execution of Elaine, so Morgan can just take her place.
And Guybrush, so I can take his place.
Yeah, she's the star. My golden moment is helping LeChuck figure out the puzzle.
That's good. Yeah, that's a really good one. That's up there.
Yeah. You know what? I do agree with you that the puzzles in this episode aren't necessarily the best, but I feel like this episode's really elevated by just everything else in it. I feel like it shines in a lot of areas in ways that I don't feel like the first episode really does. And I did enjoy the first episode, but I just feel like this one has more to admire, I think.
Potent pickup?
My potent pickup is the hook.
I was about to pick it, but I didn't.
You didn't pick it? I'm very interested because I actually had two things written down. I couldn't pick between two things, and just now I picked the hook. And so I'm glad yours is different.
Well, what is the other one you did?
101 fish jokes.
Okay, pretty good. Not what I picked either, though.
Well, the reason I like 101 fish jokes is even though the puzzle with it's a little simple and plain, you can open up the book at any point and get another joke.
Do you think there's actually 101 in there?
I don't know if there's 101 in there, but there might be. I'll have to look it up. But none of the jokes are good. They're just kind of shitty. It's like, why did the fish cross the road? To prove it wasn't chicken.
Why did the fish take the aspirin?
It had a haddock.
It had a haddock.
And every single one of these jokes, Guybrush is just like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, haddock is such a stretch for headache, too.
I get it, but also, wow.
Maybe in the time period in which the book was written, the accent would have pushed those words closer together.
Yeah, at the time, that was considered a hilarious joke.
That's basically a homophone.
Is that all of them? Is that all of our segments?
Well, no, my potent pickup.
Oh, you have to say your potent pickup.
My potent pickup is the day pass for the raft, because this is my favorite joke in the whole episode. Of when you first arrive at Spinner Cay, you look at the raft and you talk to Anemone, who's like renting it out, and she says, "You can only have the raft. You can only use it if you have a day pass." Or just if you've proven that you've purchased it. So then when you find Elaine and the Chieftain Beluga, you can ask Chieftain Beluga, "Hey, by the way, how do I go about getting a pass for the raft?" And then Elaine says, "Oh, no, I got one. Don't worry about it. I was doing my part to support the local economy, and I bought a few passes." So, like, that's my favorite joke in the whole thing. She just, like, saw that something was for sale and was like, "Oh, well, I just have to do my part, and I have to buy it."
Yeah, it didn't matter what it was.
Did not matter what it was. She had no intention of getting on the raft, ever. She was like, "Oh, yeah." She didn't know Guybrush was going to show up. She
just wanted to help support the local economy.
She bought more than one, and she's the only person in her party there. That's so good.
It is. It's very good. But that also reminds me, we do have another segment, Linguistic Gymnastics.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say is I feel like there weren't a whole lot of like super funny lines in this episode, but I still had some. I still had a good enough amount. And I feel like there were enough funny situations that made up for, even if it doesn't have the funniest dialogue. Like, I thought the whole thing with LeChuck was great. But there's some lines in there.
I only have one that we haven't talked about yet, which is from...
Can I say mine first?
Yeah.
I want to hope
yeah.
you didn't get it. Just let me do this one, and then you can do yours. So it's when you're talking to the two pirates. I'm glad you got their last names, because I got their first names. Merkel and Killick.
Okay.
Killick looks like he's been vomiting all over himself, first of all. Like, they all have the pox, but he is the only one with, like, big vomit stains on him.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking to them, they're arguing over what to do with the artifact. And you're like, what's going on, guys? And Killick says, Merkel won't give me the artifact so I can decide where to bury it. And Guybrush says, Merkel, is this true? The delivery just kills me. Okay, so that was my top one. What's your one you have?
Well, there's one where you're asking... You can ask anyone about Dakava, who was introduced as the person who's looking for the sponge. And Anemone says, "Oh, you mean Crazy Sponge Guy? He was looking for a sea urchin or something." That's it. That's all I got.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a few more. A couple more anyway. So, one thing I like, I don't know if this was like specifically for this part or if it's just something Guybrush says if it's like the wrong thing you're supposed to do. But I think it's when I was clicking on the cannon, or trying to use an item on the cannon. I forget what it was. But Guybrush says, I know that seems like a good idea, but it's not.
Yeah. I think he says that last episode as well.
So it might just be the generic thing he says when it's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That makes it funnier. I like that. I know that seems like a good idea, but no. Another one is when Guybrush makes the manatee sing, the toy manatee, and he's doing his goofy dance. This dance, by the way, they reused this animation in Back to the Future when Marty is at the science fair. I forget when it is, but I remember him doing it. But anyway, it sings, "A pirate I was meant to be, trim the sails and roam the sea," and Guybrush is doing his little dance, and he just does the most pathetic, "Yay!" Okay, my last one is when McGillicuddy has Chieftain Beluga tied up, and Chieftain Beluga's telling him, like, don't you know anything about mer people? If you dunk me in the water, I'll be able to breathe. And he says, I don't need to know nothing. I got the pox.
I liked that one as well.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's some funny stuff.
Well, I believe that's our episode for today, Dustin.
It is our episode, Mitchell.
Mitchell?
I combined your first and last name.
All right. Be careful with that. That can hurt people.
You're welcome.
Come visit us again, listener.
Join us again next time.
Come visit us again, where we'll talk about episode 3 of Tales of Monkey Island.
We'll keep your seat warm. Lair of the Leviathan.
Lair of the Leviathan. Good name. These are all great names.
Yeah, I like them all. The Siege of Spinner K.
Yeah, the
I had it written.
Screaming Narwhal.
I had it written down in my notes when McGillicuddy starts attacking Spinner K. I wrote down, "Oh no, it's a siege on Spinner K."
Yeah, it was lightly attacked, and it definitely felt like, oh, this is where the name of the... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but then he leaves, like, right after.
Yeah, it was not a particularly destructive siege.
Yeah, but I do agree with you. I get where you're coming from on this episode being weak, but I don't know. I feel like just what they do with the world, I liked. What they did with LeChuck. And all the characters bring it a pretty fair amount, and Morgan being introduced. I feel like this episode does have some pretty good strengths. It's no Moai Better Blues.
I think, yeah, it's not terrible. It felt maybe like season 1 Sam and Maxie, and not like the best episode of that, but not like the worst either. The first episode having just this mysterious island that the winds only blow in and no one can leave, and that creates like this self-sustaining weird economy where certain things are prized way higher than they should be. Like that whole thing has so much character to it, and I think this episode was relying on like, aren't mermaids interesting? And in this game structure, they kind of are just like any other NPC.
Yeah, but I still got a lot. I feel like it adds a lot to the world, so that might be why I like it more than some other people do, at least.
That is fair. And we'll talk about more fair things next time. We'll see ya!
Goodbye!